Hi everyone, it's Tyrone from tyroneshum.com and welcome to the dedicated channel where I'll be talking about outsourcing and automation and helping you in your business with that. Now, today's a really special podcast that I've got here, and I wanted to get a special guest on the call today because she's someone who I really admire and I'm inspired by her because she's been doing quite a lot of traveling around the world. And also too, she's got a quite a successful blog out there as well, talking about traveling and her journeys and stuff like that. So what I wanted to do was introduce to you my special guest, Natalie Sisson. So, welcome to the call, Natalie.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks for having a Kiwi on the call as well. I know that must be hard as an Australian.
Oh, I don't know, is there much difference?
So,
That's great. Well, I wanted to get you on the call because you've had some really interesting journeys and we've come across each other. You actually interviewed me last year for one of your posts for your blog as well at womansworld.com. And it was really interesting because when I spoke to you, you actually told me that you're traveling around the world, and I was like, "Wow, this is really, really interesting." And I'm really excited because I wanted to find out more about why. Why did you become the so-called suitcase entrepreneur, and how did you come across that and start that kind of journey in your whole blog and your life?
cool. So I guess I always have been a traveler. I mean, our whole family is pretty global. We have international parents, but living in New Zealand and always traveling to everywhere else. Because as you know, being in Australia, I always feel like we're on top of the world, but everything else has to be discovered. Um, so really lucky as since a real young one to be traveling around the world. But the suitcase entrepreneur concept came earlier last year, actually. Because my Skype is doing some strange things. Okay, it's great. Um, Coming to you live from Buenos Aires right now. That's why it's having difficulties. Working in a technology company, I was actually a co-founder of a tech startup, and the long and short of it was that I just didn't feel there were enough women in technology in a business, and that is what drove me to start my blog, just to talk about my journey, my experience as an entrepreneur, put myself out there, ask other people for their advice, give some advice on what I'd learned, because I think I learned a ton in a year and a half around starting a business. And then while I was doing that, I realized I absolutely love traveling. Could I make it work? Could I have a blog and a platform and a business off the back of that blog that allowed me to travel the world? So I did live in London for 2.5 years. I lived in Canada for just over 2 years, and now I've been in Buenos Aires for, man, about a month and a half. And I'm out here for around 6 months. So the point is to kind of take myself to different locations and still run my business and still see if it can happen and inspire other people along the way to get creative ways of running their business from anywhere, using a lot of what you do as well, outsourcing, online tools, and social media. So that's kind of what I love to preach now, and I'm always fascinated in learning more about tools and things that I can use to allow me to do that. And then I learn all that and then I share it with my community.
That's awesome. You mentioned that you had a tech startup. Was that before you started living in London, going back at least 4.5 years
No,
ago?
actually, it was when I went to Canada. So in London, I was like had a career, pretty successful background in product management, marketing, branding, and communications, and some business development. And I think it gave me a great like base. But I always rebelled at the end of the day against being managed by other people, as you probably know. Like I don't like being told what to do, and I do like the flexibility to take off whenever I want, to do whatever I want. And that's pretty much what having your own business allows you to do when you're not chained to it. And so the whole thing of actually just living out of a suitcase and moving my business around the world, I realized would actually make that even more relevant and true. So I could technically have holidays and be in different countries and experiencing different cultures and languages while still having my business.
That's how I feel as well too. I don't like to be stuck in one thing. I don't like to be told what to do. At the same time, I like that flexibility because when you run your own business, it really depends up to you because you're really the person who's behind the whole systems, and also if you've got a team around you, it's really you being the leader to be able to drive the business and getting to run, whilst at the same time having that flexibility to go anywhere you want and also enjoy the things that are around you as well too. So
Yeah.
where are you originally from actually before you went to London?
I am from New Zealand. My
Yep.
hometown is Wellington,
Okay.
capital city of New Zealand. So I pretty much lived there all my life, but I must admit, super lucky as kids. pretty much every year or every second year we'd be heading off to Europe, where a lot of our relations were, or over to America to see Disneyland, etc. I think our parents were really great and just making that happen, no matter what their lifestyle. Dad had a pretty decent job, but they'd still make time for some extensive travel. And I think, when you're young and that's the upbringing that you have, it becomes part and parcel of who you are. So I know a lot of New Zealanders do travel, and so do Australians, and Israelis as well, big travelers. But I think it just becomes a mindset for you. You either like it or you don't. And I very much like being able to be mobile and have all my stuff in one suitcase that I can just run out the door with at any stage. And I know for a lot of people, they can't handle that. They need their base, they need their solid foundations, they need their stuff where it is, they need to come home to a house, and I totally understand that. It's just not the lifestyle for me.
Oh, I can totally relate to you as well too. Actually, talking about Suitcase, I'm curious now, what is actually in your suitcase when you travel? Like how big of a suitcase do you travel with, and what do you take with you?
It's not big enough to fit me in. I tried the other day. I just put up a video of me trying to be in my suitcase. I can't fit in my suitcase anymore. It was actually pretty small. A lot of people are really surprised when they see it. I've learned over the years of traveling with like a 14-liter backpack around Thailand and Southeast Asia for 6 weeks that you need so little. But essentially, pretty much a good pair of flip-flops, a decent pair of sneakers so you can always get out and run and do your exercise. One pair of shoes, and this might sound strange for ladies, but one pair of shoes that you can wear out that looks semi-way decent. And then there's just some materials that travel really, really well that don't crease and tend to just take stuff that you never have to iron. It doesn't matter if you fold it all up, it still comes out looking pretty good. And I think essentially it's all about layers. People tend to just kind of, oh, I'll take this and this, I can't live without it, but actually you end up wearing a lot of the similar stuff, so it's all about layers and making sure that you can keep warm, and if you're in cold environments and vice versa, and warm environments. And then just so little, you need so little. The toiletries, everything can be minimal. You can buy anything you need pretty much wherever you go, and I think a lot of people forget that. They tend to take the whole entire house with them because they're like, I desperately need this. And then when you get there, you realize it's probably 1/5 of the price, depending on where you're going. And you could have just bought it there and saved yourself the heavy bags and the
actually,
weight.
for women, I'm not going to say too much about what I understand about women, but I thought at least you'd want to take a minimum of cosmetics and all your makeup and all that kind of stuff too, which is, I think that's important for women. But I know in my case, as a male, I've traveled a bit as well, and a lot of times I'm just happy with just probably 2 or 3 pairs of clothing. I just take a toothbrush and toothpaste, and that's all I need. And the rest of the stuff you can buy. Even actually, I shouldn't even need to take a toothbrush and toothpaste as well. And I could probably buy that as well whenever I get. And it depends on where you're traveling too, because if you're going to be staying there for only a week or two, they might be wise. But if you're staying there for a longer period of time, like at least 2 or 3 months, then you might as well just buy it there, because once you use it, you can just chuck it out and move to the next place. So,
I know when I lived in London, I would go through Heathrow about the time when they had minimized the amount of liquids that you could take on board with you. Every single week, because I was traveling a lot for my job at the stage, every single week I would see people just having full sunscreen products, perfumes, bottles of shampoo, really expensive cosmetics and skincare just being thrown out because they hadn't bothered to think about the small amount they needed. And I really was wondering why they were taking that for a 2-day weekend anyway. So it's just, I think you get used to it after a while. It's just about thinking minimal, thinking light, and really thinking about the necessities that you need. At the end of the day, you need a passport, some money, and a credit card, and your tickets. But those are all on sort of e-online now, so really, your passport.
Exactly. I mean, you could even probably have your ticket, your electronic ticket on your iPhone, for example, and then as soon as you just go through, just present it and let it scan, you're done. And it's as simple as that. Technology nowadays has allowed us to do so much, and you just take your laptop, you'd probably have everything on it. So it's amazing. So where have you been lately? You're currently in Buenos Aires, and
exactly.
Yep. And prior to that, you said you're in Canada. Was that right, for 2 years?
It was in Canada, yeah.
Was in Canada. What were you doing in Canada?
Around. That's a really good question. I went there to play the World Championship Ultimate Frisbee tournament that was held in Vancouver. So that was late 2008. I just decided to leave London, where I'd been living, and go to Canada and base myself in Vancouver for a while. And while I was there, I definitely attempted to travel around. I mean, it's a massive country. It's not dissimilar to Australia, but attempted to travel around while I was there. And that's obviously also where I started my business, so it's been great.
Actually,
And
talking about starting a business, let's take a step back. I should have asked you this as well. When you're in London, as you mentioned, you're working for a company, and where was that point, that turning point, when you decided, okay, I'm fed up with this. I want to go and travel somewhere else, e.g., Canada, and where you are currently. Where was that turning point, and what inspired you to do that? Firstly, too.
I think the turning point's been there for a long, long time. I just decided to disregard it for a while. And London, as much of an amazing city as it is, it's a real rat race. So for all the wonderful culture and the internationalism of it, and the fact that you're on the borders of Europe and you can go anywhere, it's a city where you really have to just keep chugging along. It drains you. It's tough. Everything's just, yeah, just like, it makes you realize that you're one tiny little minutiae and millions of people there. So I think that was probably the kicker for me, was just not wanting to be doing that anymore, not wanting to be under people's control and their silly guidelines and their stupid management rules and their archaic systems. And so when I got on the plane to Canada, I really, really saw it as a fresh start, and that when I landed, I wasn't going to get a job. I was going to go into my own business. And at the time, I was thinking it'd be something to do with health and fitness and coaching in the corporate arena. So I'd seen the kind of unhealthy lifestyles that people had in corporate careers, and I wanted to take that and then make it like more exciting and interesting and get them to be healthy and fit. And it just so happened that I met my business partner for this tech company within the first month, and we started that instead. But I was happy either way, because I just knew that I had a startup now and I had a business, and I was relying on my skills and my gut instincts, and wouldn't be receiving a lot of money, but I'd just be a ton of skills. I'd just be putting all that knowledge that I'd gained over the years into something that I really, really believed in. So I think that was the catalyst, moving country, changing culture, and having opportunities.
Did you have a lot back in?
For the opportunity.
Did you have a lot back in London though? Like, did you own a place in London, or were you renting in London? And did you have like a car and all those other necessities that we talk about?
Sold my car and I had a bike, and I was biking everywhere, which I love and I highly recommend for people when you're in a city. But I essentially, I just bought a portion of debt in a house. So I just invested in a house. I just got a raise in a really, really amazing role, but I just wasn't prepared to be there anymore. So I think a lot of my friends thought I was pretty crazy because I was walking away. Once I did all that, literally a month before I left, I'd bought this house.
Wow.
With a friend. And so I found it really easy, though. It was lovely to just offload everything. You can sell everything on Craigslist. You can give
Yes.
stuff away. You can donate it. You have friends who want it. So, I find I'm pretty good now at, when I come to a place, trying not to accumulate too much stuff. But for what I do accumulate, which may be books or just some things, I always give them away, store them, send them home, or just sell them. And it's just a really lovely feeling. I think you can do that wherever you go.
Yeah.
You just get
Actually,
into this tendency to hoard
you
stuff.
mentioned sending home. Where is your home, actually?
That's a good point. That would be my lovely parents, who have a small, and it still is actually pretty small stocks pile of some really special things that I like to send home, because I think when you do travel, you love to collect pieces that are really indicative of that country. And
Yep.
I try to go small on those, so they're very insignificant and I can carry them around. But if it's really special and I know I'm not going to have a base for the next 6 months or a year, which is pretty logical, in my case, then I will send it back to the family home, because at least I know they're there for now, even if they travel still too.
That's nice. What I do, because we had a big declutter and we saw a lot of valuables that we had as childhood memories as well. And we said, should we either keep it or we dump it? And the thing is, if we kept it, it'd be more clutter. So what we do is we take a photo of it and then just write next to what we want, like on our computer, and then just chuck it that way. That way we look at it and go, okay, we've memorized it, we know what it is, and we can always look back on it as a memory. And I think that's the beauty of having technology nowadays, is that you can literally see things that you've got. Obviously, you can't touch it, the same things as we like to, but at least it's there, and it's things that you can't, you don't want to lug around as well, especially if you're trying to be minimalistic or traveling around the world. So
Exactly. And actually, one rule of thumb that I used to give to people who were like, how the heck do you do that? Is to put the stuff that you just can't get rid of into a storage cupboard, somewhere in your house or into a storage facility for 6 months. If during that 6 months you haven't needed it once, then you didn't need it in the first place.
that's
Really, really simple.
absolutely a great tip.
You'll miss what you really need.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, coming back to the story now, after I interrupted you about Canada, you're in Canada doing a frisbee competition in 2008. And after or during that time, where did you go in Canada, and what else happened during that time as well? Because 2 years is a long
Actually, to
time.
be fair, it is. I didn't travel a ton around Canada at the time. I was very much based in Vancouver. I did go to Calgary when it was kind of just beautiful to go up and see the stunning nature around there as well. Banff and Jasper, which was amazing. So I took a bit of a trip up there and it was just fantastic. But I was able to work while I was there. I did quite a few inspiring videos because the surroundings were just
Hmm.
magical. Um, and a couple of other places more to the east of Canada. I still haven't made it to Toronto or Montreal, but I'm going back.
Oh,
And
I
then did
have
a
to.
lot of skiing up at Whistler. I did a lot around British Columbia, which in itself is kind of larger than New Zealand altogether, a lot. And so there's just the distances in Canada are pretty big. But while I was in Canada, I also went to Costa Rica on a trip. I went to the US 5 or 6 times as well. So I don't feel like I was just there. I was definitely always traveling around and about.
Ah, so you sort of use Canada as a base, but you're traveling to other countries at the same time because they are quite close to Canada as well.
Yeah, definitely. I did the same in London. Like every weekend, I was away in some European country, doing something different. So generally, just kind of try to base it. Like while I'm here in Argentina, I intend to go to Uruguay, and I'd love to get up to Colombia as well. But just creating a small base where you know you can come back to is pretty useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really interesting because I have had a lot of friends tell me about London, particular, that you can just fly over to France or just travel on the
Oh,
train over to
amazing.
France so quickly in a few hours. It's like as though it's interstate, and you can enjoy that over the weekend and just come back, and it's like you've just been on a mini holiday over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, you know what it's like for us to travel anywhere. It's at least a 15, 18-hour flight.
Exactly.
And
That's the reason why I haven't done very much of it over to the other side of the world because it just takes so long.
And when you get there and you tell people that, they think you're insane that you'd be on a plane for that long. But when I was in Europe, I definitely realized what they meant because everything is between 1 hour to 4 hours, which is so doable.
Hmm.
And everything's just such close proximity. You can drive through countries in a day. It's fantastic, or half a day, or a couple of hours.
That is awesome. So now that you've got that traveling in you, and I guess you're really, really mobile as well, there's a question that a lot of people probably are asking right now on this podcast, and also myself, is how do you sustain this? How do you sustain the cost of all this type of traveling? How do you
Yep.
keep yourself going? What do you do to do all that? I mean, you mentioned you've got a tech startup. How is that going anyway?
I did have, no, I actually left it, and I left it to go full time with this blog, which, on retrospect, was a great move. But I
Yep.
did it at a time where I hadn't been paying myself for a while with a tech company as well. So, talking about taking a risk and having next to nothing, that's pretty much when I started my blog and my business. But in terms of my traveling lifestyle, I tend to be a bit of a budget traveler. I am extraordinarily lucky in that I connect with a lot of people around the world, and then I go and stay with them, and I return the favor. So I've had a ton of visitors come through to me in Buenos Aires, but that's because I feel last year I spent about 6 or 7 weeks traveling through Eastern Europe and staying with friends the entire time. So it
Nice.
doesn't have to be really expensive. There's services like things like Couchsurfer or couchsurfing.com. Maybe .org, that I've used a few times as well, where people will actually host you in their home and you just give them a gift or buy them dinner, but you can stay with a local, which I think is far more exciting. So I
Yeah,
generally
definitely.
try to not stay in hotels, not stay in those places, but stay with locals where possible. Learn from them, extend the favor back to them, and they take it up. They'll come and visit you in New Zealand or wherever you are at some later date. So I love that aspect. But if it is in hotels or hostels, you can get some great last minute deals and huge discounts if you go to the right sites. And I've put a couple of those things up on my website. And then in terms of actual cost when you're here, I mean, I really, because I'm not buying anything, I'm not buying stuff. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a car. Technically, I don't have a mortgage. It's paid by the rent. I don't have a car. I don't have those costs that people accumulate in their countries when they're living in a home. I don't have children, very, very lucky. That's also a bit of a cost saving. But I live a pretty simple life. So my main kind of spending is on tools and technology and any equipment that I have. And outside of that, I tend to, if I can base myself somewhere, cook for myself. As I said, I pay for experiences, not
Yep.
for things.
Yep.
And that's where I think it's pretty easy to do this kind of lifestyle within reason. Use frequent flyer miles or credit card points as well to get cheaper trips.
Yeah,
And
that's
just do a little
definitely.
bit more planning so
Yeah.
that you can go at the right time of the year when it's not peak season and cycle if you need to or catch buses or it's just It's pretty easy once you know what you're doing.
Actually, it's all about street smart, to be honest, because if you sort of know and plan things out and you have a little bit of knowledge about how to go about traveling, you can actually save quite a bit. Because obviously, if you go at peak time, which is the crazy time, like Christmas time, usually the seasons where people are traveling, like Easter and stuff like that, obviously those places are going to be charging heaps because they know that that's where the tourists are going to be coming from. But if you come during the times where it's off peak, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to experience what the locals are, and that's the reason why it's called off peak, so that you can travel and get it at those lower rates as well too. So it's really, really
You do
amazing.
have to give
Yeah.
one caveat to that is, if you're planning on going to Europe, Europe is obviously more expensive. For
Mm,
example, if you're going to Southeast Asia, it's dirt cheap in comparison. South
yes.
America, not bad. Brazil's become a lot more expensive, but it does depend on where you travel. If you're going to hang out in the expensive areas, you've got to be prepared to pay a little bit more. But many, many countries around the world are just so cheap to travel around in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through to Thailand and oh, it's just amazing how you could just get food there so cheap. Like I could probably live like a king if I had, say, 15K just sitting in my bank account for savings, and live off that for a whole year. And I wouldn't have to even worry because that just the rate that you transfer over, because obviously the food and the cost of living there goes a very, very long way. In comparison, you could not
Yeah.
live in Australia or New Zealand for 15K.
No. Now, you could actually had a couple from Canada who now live in New Zealand, but they traveled around Southeast Asia for 6 months and spent 20,000 Canadian for the two of them.
Oh,
And
nice.
sometimes they were splurging in lovely hotels and they were going out a lot and eating. They were traveling around everywhere, and 20,000 for that whole time. Like that's just, it's really nothing. So
Exactly.
you've got to choose your experiences and put your money where you really want it to go. You just don't need all those expensive. I just find people spend so much money on cars or on their hair, on makeup, on clothes and gadgets and 42-inch plasmas and things. And they're all lovely for a minute. They're kind of instantaneous gratification that you've done well. You can't take a 42-inch plasma with you to language and experience an adventure. Like it's just a waste of money.
I totally agree. No, and that's the thing. Even if you're traveling as well and you go to estate places, they're going to provide you with those things anyway. So what's the point of buying and owning it yourself?
Yeah.
So, you know, you may as well just pay it in whatever your traveling expenses are and just have it there. And then when you finish with it, just move on to the next location, which I'm pretty sure if you choose the right place, they'll have a nice place, nice TV there too. I actually have a question about Couchsurfer, and you mentioned that you stayed in a few places as well, with some of the friends, and obviously that's how you're able to minimize the cost of accommodation. But say, for example, you don't know these people, and you hopped onto Couchsurfer and you found that people were willing to open their homes to you. Have you ever had that? I guess you can say scared or fear. They're thinking, okay, if I go to this person's place, they could be a stalker, they could be a serial killer, they could be all those things. Does that also
Yeah.
come across your mind as well?
I'm really lucky in that respect that I'm fairly trusting of people, but I also think I have a good instinct around who to trust and who's credible.
Mm,
And I've been really, really lucky in all my times of traveling. I've been, yeah, just super lucky with the people I've stayed with. But with something like couchsurfing, for example, you do have to pay to sign up for the service. So straight off, you have to commit and put some credit on there.
mm.
Second, people rate you, and you have to kind of earn your status and credibility.
Oh, good.
And you can see whether people have bad reviews or not. And generally, people with bad reviews are kicked off. So
Yep.
it's not everybody who's going to open up their home to you, because obviously you have to be really trusting, allowing a complete stranger into your house
Yes, that's
with
right.
your stuff lying around that they could, steal things as well. So it's a two-way thing, and I think the traveling world is wonderful in that respect. Most people are very open-minded, very giving, very generous. And it's a system that works. It's like karma comes around to you. So if you're going to do good things for people, it'll be returned, and vice versa. If you're going to screw people around or steal their stuff or maybe be a little bit dodgy, it's going to come back and,
Bite
and
you.
bite you in the butt.
Yes,
So
totally
no,
agree.
I don't get scared about that. Yeah.
It's just good to know about the rating. So it's a little bit like eBay in some sense, where you've got a rating and feedback how the experience
Exactly.
was, and if the experience is good, then it's somebody who you can definitely trust to go there and stay, and that sort of alleviates the fear of having any issues down the track. Because I think that's one thing that a lot of people will probably be saying. Aren't you scared of staying at some stranger's place when you've never ever met them? You don't know what their background's like, etc., etc.
Kiwis little strange. And by the way, it's not all couches. Like people actually have rooms that they will let you stay in. And so it's just that it's called Couchsurfing because that's how it started. It started very much on an honesty system for people traveling around the world thinking, well, what if I could stay with a local and then I could return the favor when they came to see me? So I think the fact that it started off like that means that you can trust it a lot more.
That's really interesting. All right, well, let's talk a little bit more about your blog. I'm curious now how your blog and your inspiration to start that blog, and also to how that's also helping you sustain your traveling experiences and also keeping you up and running. How has that helped you, and what is it that you are doing on that blog at this point in time?
Yeah, it's been amazing, I think, because it's technically shaped what I do. So even though before, when it was Women's World, it was very much aimed at women entrepreneurs wanting to start their business or who were in the early stages of business, giving them advice, resources, and tools that would allow them to do that more effectively. And that was great for me because I would interview some top experts and entrepreneurs and get more advice from them, and then I'd write more of my own content and offer more, do some programs around that as well. But over time, it's definitely developed into, well, what do I love most? I love entrepreneurship, I love sports, and I love traveling around the world. So how can I combine that into a business or a blog and actually really speak about the stuff that I love? So the Suitcase Entrepreneur came to me in November. I was at a conference. I was actually, every single time I introduced myself to people, they're like, oh, what's your name? What do you do? And where do you live? And it would be like, well, I'm Natalie Sisson, and I have this blog called Women's World, and I love helping women around the world to run their business from anywhere. And they're like, oh, where do you live? And I'd be, oh, I actually live out of a suitcase. And it was just really fascinating. So these people like, crazy lady, really inspiring, strange. And I was like, you know what I do? I actually do live out of a suitcase. I'm always traveling. I'm always in a semi-state of being packed. And I was like, that's got to be the domain name. Went out and bought it. And now it's really cool because it's so much more to find my niche and what I am trying to do. Because there's a certain type of person who wants to live our lifestyle. And as I said at the start of the conversation, it's people who will never want to do this. And I understand that, and that's their lifestyle. But if you do and you want to find other creative ways to do it, then I'm your girl. And I think it's great because from that, it's allowed me to think really about the types of products and programs that I offer through my blog, which is the platform, and the types of coaching and consulting services that I offer as well. So that's kind of how my business is made up. It's the blog is the platform, it's the voice, it's the front, and then there's products and programs that I create myself for entrepreneurs, and some consulting and coaching that I do specifically around social media and running your business.
Hey, that's really, really great. And it's amazing that it's able to provide that for you as well as a platform so that you can allow you to do all those things that you enjoy, such as traveling and experiencing and making the most out of your whole life in different locations as well too. I'm also
It's getting there. Like, yeah, it's really getting, as you know, it's a full-time freaking job trying to run it, but I love it and I wouldn't be doing anything else. And a lot of people think you work too much on it, but I think it's a wonderful way to travel the world and do.
To be honest, at the beginning, whenever you're starting out something and you're running any business, you need to put in a lot of time into it to build it up. And once you build it up, then the processes start to take place, whether or not you decide to outsource it, automate it, and set up those systems in place to have it in full automation system. Or if you decide to take it full throttle and you just want to continue to run it the way it is, it's really up to you. And it's really amazing to be able to see so many different entrepreneurs out there and speak to them and meet them and find out how they're doing their businesses, because everyone does it differently and you can't have the exact same model or structures that everyone else has. It's you're the unique one. And if it's not you, people are not attracted to you. So curious as well too, how often are you running or working within your business, and what's the balance like in terms of for you traveling too?
I would say the balance has had its moments during the year because I just love working on what I'm doing all the time. So some people really have to take my laptop away from me. But I think the cool thing is not always having a base. You do have to go out and about and seek places to work. And so I worked on trains and in planes and in boats and in cars because I'm lucky I don't get seasickness or any kind of sickness like that. And I've even worked in courtyards of some cute little village in Slovakia on a bench because I picked up some Wi-Fi. So I think from that respect, even though I may not take substantial holidays now, I kind of feel like it's that mix of I'm traveling and I'm working. So Whereas before maybe I used to go off and spend a week and just go offline. Now it'd be good to do that over a weekend or take a dedicated day when I want, time I want, like a whole afternoon off or something to do it. But still right now I have a lot of projects going on, so I'm doing more work, and then I'm looking forward to having a bit of a break in a couple of months where I've got it to a point that I can allow myself to do that more. And I'm constantly working on the outsourcing side of things, which you've helped me with, so that I can free up a little bit more time and really focus on the cool stuff, and then get around and see the city I'm living in and the local areas and the other countries around here. So it's a fine line judging the balance, but I think if you love what you do, you want to work on it all the time, which is not necessarily healthy, but I far prefer to be doing that than working on something that I hated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the passion. I'm very much the same as well, and I love doing what I do. And I guess sometimes it's hard to pull yourself away because you just enjoy it so much. You don't really treat it as work because you enjoy it. It's like a passion. It's like a hobby, and you just want to keep growing and keep doing it, and you're just addicted to it. But at the same time, to balance that, you've got to take a step back and realize, okay, if you're working too much on it, are you really progressing forward to achieving that lifestyle that you really want, which is, in your case,
Exactly.
traveling to see different locations and experience the different things out there as well. Are you also traveling with anyone else at this point in time, or is it just by yourself?
It's just me. Yeah, but I'm lucky I have family visiting right now, and I have friends who, it's kind of cool. If you come to a new location, that's another thing. If you have international friends who like to travel, or even if they don't, they might finally go, you know what, I've always wanted to get to Buenos Aires, so I'm going to come and see you while you're down there. So I like that aspect of it as well. Not only do you meet locals here and other expats, you also meet, your friends who will come out and see you and vice versa, and you can go and see them. So no, pretty much been traveling by myself and then try and pull people my way to come and say, come and visit.
It's amazing to be able to do that
Coming over
because
Tyrone.
I'd have to definitely consider coming over sometime and visiting you, depending on how long you're staying over there. Because I've got plans to travel to Bali about mid this year, so gotta balance it out somehow as well. So, what are your plans for, say, the next year? As you said, you're going to be staying here in Buenos Aires for until May. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm here until early May at this stage. June-ish, I want to be back in the US. There's a couple of really cool conferences and summits going on there. And then I have beforehand in Croatia. And while I was there, I try and do the World Beach Championships for Ultimate, which are in Italy in
Nice.
August. So these are the grand plans. And I'm finally going home after 5.5 years to New Zealand in September for the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
Where I'll stay for a couple of months. Yeah, we're finally going to win one. Damn it. So really looking forward to that. And then there is a bit of a big plan in January of 2012 to do a cycle race from Cairo to Cape Town,
Wow.
which would allow me to see the whole east coast of Africa. So that's the plan. I put my deposit down. I'm aiming towards doing that. And I don't normally plan my travel out that much, but it just seems that in the next kind of year and a half, I'm being a little bit more strategic about it with the business and all. So I'm pretty excited.
It is very exciting, and does that mean that you're going to have to be doing quite a bit of training as well too? You're going to have to hop on a bike and
And I don't think Buenos Aires eating empanadas and drinking lots of wine and eating lots of, really fatty foods is part of the training. Luckily, I have almost a year, a year to get on the bike and do more of that. So yeah.
that'll be awesome.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's okay. Sometimes you can always train no later than probably about 3 or 4 months before the actual race. I found that I used to be able to do those kind of things, and even till today, I've just been doing a 90-day program. And 90 days I think is sufficient enough, because after 90 days your body starts to get so used to the program, or depending on what you do, then you need to start shaping it up or changing it. So yeah, you don't want to be doing it too early, otherwise
Is that the TX90 program or whatever it's
yeah, it's
called
the
that I've been reading?
P90X program that I've been doing. And
P90X.
yeah,
Similar.
it's so varied that it just shapes your body in such a short period of time, because you're always getting changed. You're never sticking on the same thing over and over again, that's the reason why you're able to grow so fast and really get fit very, very quickly as well too. So it's been an absolutely awesome program for me.
Fantastic. Good
Awesome.
to hear. I might just look into it now.
Yeah, definitely. I
It's
always
apparently very good for travelers, actually.
Yeah, actually, it's very good because you don't need very much. All you need is some weight bands, which are just stretchy things, and then, a chin-up bar, and that's it. You don't need very much.
Chin-up bar, would that fit in my suitcase?
You can dismantle it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could.
Okay.
I can dismantle mine and just put it in a suitcase if I wanted to, but I don't have
Okay.
plans to take it with me to traveling. Wherever I go, I'll just probably buy one locally or something like that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good
Well,
point.
if people want to get in contact with you, Natalie, and want to find out how to be able to have that lifestyle that you've got, how can they get in contact with you, or where can they go to check out more information?
I would love to say they can call 0900 Good Times, but they'd probably get the wrong kind of service. So they could go to instead womansworld.com. Or even better, I've got the two domain names. Yes, I'm swapping over. TheSuitcaseEntrepreneur.com will take you to my blog. You can also find me on Twitter at Natalie Sisson, Sisson, and at Woman's World. So kind of all over the place. You'll find me on searches. Just dig up Natalie Sisson, Suitcase Entrepreneur, Frisbee. You'll find me.
Definitely, I haven't missed you, so I see you out there. I'll definitely put that down below this video, and yeah, if you guys want to check out any of her stuff, check out Natalie's stuff. It's really, really good. I've learned some interesting things from her as well, and I can't wait to actually meet you in person sometime. So when you do come back to New Zealand, maybe I might make a trip over to do some skiing over there and catch up there as well. So it'll be really
Yeah,
nice.
definitely. You could come to the stadium when the Australian Wallabies are being whipped by the All Blacks. I'd be
Nah.
happy to.
I'm still
Gonna
supporting the
happen.
Wallabies. Still supporting the Wallabies.
They're a
Awesome.
great team. I'll support them if we're not playing them.
No, okay. I don't know about that. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming onto the call today. It's been a real pleasure to be able to find out what you've been doing and what you've been up to. It's an amazing story, and you've really shared a lot there. So I wanted to say a big, big thank you for coming on, and it's a pleasure to have you on today.
Big, big thank you for having me. It's been awesome. It's been my pleasure as well. And also a big thanks for allowing me to interview you on New Year's Eve morning at like 8 a.m. when we interviewed, which is very generous of you. So I'll never forget that.
That's okay. Luckily, I didn't have anything planned for that morning. Evening was party, but morning I was a little bit free, so first thing in the morning's all
Sweet.
okay for me. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. If you'd like to find out more about further of these podcasts and you love this one, feel free to hop over to tyroneshum.com on my blog, and also too, there's a few other podcasts that are available as well too. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. My name's Tyrone Shum from tyroneshum.com, and I'll see you inside the next podcast.